All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's a different time almost every single week. We kind of always try and figure out whether it's Wednesday or Thursday. Just consider it those 2 days blocked off for another episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Of course, I'm your host, Chet. It's been a very interesting start to 2022, especially considering, Duffy, now that the regular season is officially over here in the NFL. This is the first time here on Unapologetic that we've gone to cover from week 1 all the way through week 18. And Duffy, it's been quite a ride, and I can't believe we're here. And I'm sure in like 4 weeks from now, we're going to be saying that about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, it's been a great season with you on the show, Chet. Third in a row us covering. Sorry for stumbling there.
Oh, no.
But great for Unapologetic in the show. To come out here for the whole season. I think I only miss 1 or 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
And feels good. And for the playoffs, we've been hyped for it all season. Playoff picture much different than what we thought it was going to be just a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
And this weekend is going to be a great slate of wild card football.
And honest to God, I was listening to a podcast on ESPN Daily this week, and they had Alex Smith on the show, and he said he was at that Raiders-Chargers game, and I guess we'll talk about that before we jump into our Patriots segment real quick.
Yeah.
That game, is kind of the staple, the cherry on top for what this whole NFL season was about, because this NFL season was easily the most wild ride that I have ever been on in terms of as a football fan. Just sitting there and taking it all in, seeing upset after upset, teams moving up and down the standings all over the place. I wouldn't have told you we'd end up where we are, but yet here we are.
Yeah. Back to that Raiders-Chargers game, the last game of the season, 35-32 overtime. So many weird situations leading up to it with Pittsburgh going on the road and Baltimore winning, and more importantly, Jacksonville beating the Indianapolis Colts at home, knocked them out of the picture. What game is amazing when it has its own Wikipedia page 24 hours after the game.
Yeah.
And, this game had everything. Chargers down 15 the fourth quarter. Justin Herbert really showing why he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league for as long as he wants to. Throwing the ball 64 times, throwing it for 383 yards, eclipsing 5,000 on the season. In just his second year in the league, it's incredible.
Yeah.
He has a bright future ahead, but all respect to the Raiders. Took care of business at home. Won me $50 on the game. I live bet them in the first quarter when they were up 3-0. Derek Carr poised to make his first career playoff start. In his 8th season in the league. Great shot for him. Great shot for the Raiders because they need it. They've only been in the playoffs twice now in 20 seasons, and have not won a playoff game since I was 2 years old. So it's great for the league. That game was awesome. And probably the best game of the entire year. What a season finale. And everything you wanted to have.
Yeah. And kind of just it, like you said, it was everything you could have asked for. And something that's huge about it. And I'm going to drop the link in the comments. Well, below in a few moments. You'll see it on the ticker below. But check out my article that I wrote last week about the playoff clinching scenarios. Because when I was writing that whole clinching scenario and was talking about both Chargers and Raiders in that article, honestly, I sat there and scratched my head even like a week before the game happened. I was like, if these teams could honestly just tie if they wanted, and they'd both be in. They have better records than most of the teams that were there. They had better head-to-head wins. They had a chance to both walk into the playoffs, and that happened in overtime. Both teams are sitting at 32 all, and the Raiders are letting this clock run down from like 50 seconds. It's 3rd and 4, and these teams look like they're ready to go, and then they call a timeout. Yeah. I don't know why obviously the head coach after the game even said we did it because we wanted to get our run defense support unit out there and, change their personnel up. But it allowed the Raiders to make that adjustment, go ahead and get that first down, and then run the game out.
I think the timeout is getting too much hate because when you really look at it, the play clock was at 4. The Chargers were either going to get a stop or let the first down. Either way, the Raiders are at the 40-yard line. And they're going to try a 57-yard field goal with Daniel Carlson to win the game, regardless of one that he's probably going to hit. So I think the timeout it's definitely overhated. And the thing is with that is kind of just Chargers, they had a chance to let it go down. They did, but only when it went down about a few more seconds. And go read Chet's article, baby.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good one.
If you can even get that at this point. It's tough for me to hyperlink an article in here. It's a good read though. Check it out. Go to fansonlysports.com and click on articles and then scroll down to week 18 playoff clinching scenarios. That's on www.fansonlysports.com. So it's just, that game was just crazy because you're talking about at one point, these Raiders are up 26-17.
29-14, actually.
Yeah, 29-14
points with 5 minutes left.
And Justin Herbert is converting on fourth down after fourth down. And we're talking fourth downs that started in their own territory that no head coach in their life would ever be like, we're going for it. And then even in the end of the game, on 4th and 21, they complete a 30-yard pass that ended up being a touchdown. It's Justin Herbert was just out of his mind. I don't know what he was doing, what he was on, but this dude was in the game. And like, even with Max Crosby screaming onto that right tackle that was protecting him in that game, it was one of his first few games he was playing all season, and he's going up against one of the best pass rushers for this Raiders unit, and Herbert still managed to stay in that pocket despite all that pressure from that Raiders front seven and delivered strike after strike. And it just really hurts because, I mean, sure, it's nice to see Big Ben get back in the postseason. They fought well down the stretch to get where they needed to be. But, man, imagine a Chargers-Chiefs game as opposed to a Steelers-Chiefs game.
That's the thing, though.
The tables would have turned.
Chargers, that's another reason why the Raiders had to do what they had to do in terms of winning the game, because no one wants to see the Chargers in the playoffs. They're a scary team. They have a high-flying offense, high-potent attack, and no one wants to play them. So,
and honestly,
that's why I think that either way, the Raiders are going to try to win the game, suddenly go for a tie, because no one wants the Chargers in the playoffs other than fans. Because I would have loved to see the Chargers play the Bills instead of the Patriots.
Yeah,
I would have rather went to Cincinnati than Buffalo right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and I mean, when you kind of look at it from the perspective in a way, it's like the Raiders really went into this game. And like I said, I picked them last week to win this. This team has been on a mission their last 4 weeks of the season. And just 1 second, I'm sorry.
What did you say last week? We said that the Raiders are going to win, and I said the Chargers will pull the Charger.
I'm going to show this clip real quick because this was Austin Eckler talking to one of the Raiders players after the game concluded, and you'll see what I
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure if any of you knew. Basically asking the guy if they were going to take a knee. Watch the lips. Right there. Hold up. Hold up. We're going right back to that, people. Look at that.
Someone told me I looked like Austin Eckler once.
Were you going to kneel it? If that...
That's the thing, though, dude. I don't think they were actually going to kneel it.
I don't think so either. I mean, to be honest, and that goes back to your point. It's like, this is a divisional opponent. You play twice a year. Do you really want to see them get into the playoffs? And if they win their games, move on to the next round, it's like, why would you settle for that? If I was a Patriots Dolphins game and that had a tie differential to see which team would have made the postseason, I would have been like, screw the Dolphins. Go ahead and win the game. Forget them.
It's even something that Ron said that, right after the game happened on Sunday night. He said in our work chat Connect team, he was like, now the Raiders put themselves in position to win the game and go to Cincinnati instead of Kansas City, where they actually have a chance to win, which is really true.
Yeah.
Because the Raiders playing against Kansas City, that would have been the matchup if they did tie, and they got blown out by 4 touchdowns at least in both those games. So Raiders, 6-7 at one point, winning their last 4 games. Gritty, impressive wins, some of them on the road. So this team earned it. They deserve to be in the postseason, in the dance, and
they do.
Put themselves in good position to really try to make a, wild card win, because Cincinnati Bengals haven't won a game in the postseason since 1991.
That's
1981.
And the biggest stat line that goes in with these Las Vegas Raiders is this is the first time a head coach in position has been switched, and the first time a team has made the playoffs with a new coach switch change mid-season since 1961.
That's crazy.
That's an incredible stat line.
I never even knew that. Interim head coaches, all of them take over terrible teams. This situation a little bit different with John Gruden, in his emails and stuff. But
it proved he built the team.
That stat and I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's 50 years.
Yeah. But it proves John Gruden came into this organization and did set them up in a good spot to go ahead and win games.
No,
I'm not saying it does.
Do shit.
I did. Okay, I did. But I did. I'll admit that I did say that. But at the end of the day, this team believed in itself despite having a head coach fired. 2 players end up with legal troubles and end up being released from the team. Despite all that controversy, this team was able to put it behind them somehow, and that really says destiny to me in a way. It doesn't mean that, hey, it's destiny for the crown itself of the NFL, but it's destiny that it got you to where it did. You see Derek Carr put up career numbers passing yardage-wise, and that's something that's unbelievable. Hunter Renfrow, who honestly shouldn't be labeled as a wide receiver 1 yet. Now he should be. Like, look at the beginning of the season. I wouldn't have told you he would have gone for over 1,000 yards and nearly caught 10 touchdowns on the season. This team
what he did.
Took what it had, and they're talented enough to do that, but they got to execute going into the postseason. And obviously we'll get to that as they take on the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend. That'll be the first game on our wild card round. That's going to be Saturday on NBC at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be an exciting game to watch. I won't even be able to catch most of the wild card games because I'm going to be covering URI hockey, and then right after that I have to go cover LaSalle and Smithfield. So I'm going to miss the Patriots first half. And that's something we'll wind into right now is the New England Patriots, because this team has dropped 4 of their last 5 games as they fell to the Miami Dolphins last weekend, 33-24. And this was a game we talked on the show that was very winnable, except the spread was a lot more deceiving than what we saw because they dropped 50 points on the Jacksonville Jaguars a week before, and people were like, hey, they should walk into this Miami team and beat them. But honestly, dude, I probably should have picked Miami in this one because if I know the Miami Dolphins when it comes to playing the New England Patriots at Hard Rock Stadium, they just have our number there. I don't know what it is.
They sure do. Patriots came into this game, right off the bat, looked extremely flat. You had the pick 6 early from Xavier Howard, letting up, I think it was like a 7-minute drive on the opening possession for Miami. Just not a good start on defense by any means. And offense looked terrible for the first 3 and change worth of quarters. Picked things up the last 2 possessions, scoring touchdowns. But, this Pats team, playing from behind, they played really good. Mac Jones looks pretty good in the fourth quarter, but they going to the playoffs and against a team like Miami, who was borderline playoff caliber this year and last year, each of the last 2 seasons a year away from making the postseason or a win away from making the postseason. Pats really, it's not a good, thing for their energy and their momentum and confidence going into the postseason because lose division rival for the second time this year. He finished the season just 3-3 in the division, and probably play one of your worst games of the season. And it looked like for a little bit the Jets had a chance against the Buffalo Bills, so they were putting their best effort out there trying to win the division by a long shot. It just came out flat, and they looked terrible for most of the game.
Yeah, Mac Jones on the day, 20 for 30, 261 passing yards, a touchdown and an interception. One of those, as Duffy said, went to the house by Xavier Howard. Brandon Bolden and Damian Harris each scoring a touchdown in their game. And then another one scored by Bolden through the air. That was the touchdown pass there. And for Tua Tagovailoa, a very quiet day for him, 15 for 22 on 109 passing yards and a touchdown that went to Jalen Waddle, a guy that teams just can't seem to figure out. And then leave it to Duke Johnson to carry the team offensively, 25 carries for 117 rushing yards and a touchdown. But something that we obviously have to know is that Miami defense, they came ready to play. They brought that pressure to Mac Jones, forced him to make mistakes that he just wasn't prepared for. And The story of this team has been second half, they come back into it, but by then it's too little too late to come back and be back in the dance and win that game. And when you look at this, it's just I'm going to go to that Xavier Howard pick six real quick because I am sick and tired of guys doing the Marshawn Lynch dance because when he dove into that end zone, he's grabbing his crotch. It's like, bro, I don't care that you got a penis. I know you got one. It's like, bro, just stop, please. Like, I don't need this crap. It's like, obviously, you and I had this talk before the show, and it's like, oh, Chet's a little old-fashioned. But you know what? It's unsportsmanlike, bro. Like, come on, dude. You can't sit there and tell me that, like, if you did that in high school or college, you're getting a flag. Like, that's out of this world, like, unbelievable that these guys can showboat like that. Yeah. And honestly, dude, I understand, like, you know, hey, defense gets celebrations, but I think that's gone so over the top at this point. Like, the whole defense runs to the other side of the end zone, holds up, like, play for, like, 20 minutes just because, like, yes,
but, like, mid-game, that does stuff. If it's a touchdown, I get
that shit annoys me.
I hate when they get a pick and they just all pose. They all run to the end zone and pose for the camera.
Like, what happens if you turn the ball over? Like,
what happens if, like, you drop the pick and, like, they review it, it's overturned, you know? It's just awkward. And it's weird, but
it feels awkward.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I like the crotch thing because it gives me good memories of Marshawn Lynch.
I liked Marshawn Lynch as a player, but honestly, like, as time goes on and we see showboatings becoming a much bigger thing in this league, and now the term unsportsmanlike's kind of up in the air, it just seems like the only way you can pull an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty is literally pushing and shoving, ripping another person's helmet off, starting a fight, or just saying some off-colored remarks to a referee. It's like, the rules change constantly with the game. And some of them, hey, they're good, but, like, for the most part, I feel like some of these rule changes are just getting ridiculous because what we've seen from this season, I think the number one negative that we can point out in the NFL right now is that refereeing. I think officiating in these games has just become so questionable with no calls and calls that are made because I feel like there's too many penalties that could just go either way, and we did see a few in this game.
Especially with, like, roughing the passers, you know, that's been definitely a thing of the last few years where some of them are called, a lot of them are not, and a lot of them are called really softly and fragilely. But hey, rules change. Referees definitely, you know, NFL's gonna get their best crews for these postseason games, and you know, hopefully there's no controversial calls. You know, like the Rams Saints NFC Championship a few years ago.
Yeah,
this postseason. So,
and we got our guest on here tonight. We had him on a couple weeks ago, Mr. Zach Drapo, coming on to the show here. Zach, how we doing, man?
What up, Zach?
Zach, how we doing, man?
Doing good, guys. How are you doing tonight?
Doing solid. Kind of ripping apart the Patriots right now, just because, you know, a little disappointment from that Dolphins game. So we're kind of going over how they really were flat the whole game.
Yeah, Echo's so bad.
No, they totally
I'm doing pretty good, Zach. You were in my thoughts.
I'm the guy if you want to be ripping apart the Patriots.
You were in my thoughts the last few days, Zach, after the Colts. So
I feel like I might be a little bit on time delay. I don't know if you guys can see that. Am I?
Yeah.
I think you are a little delayed. Because you're echoing back some of our audio.
Oh, well, I am sorry about that. If you wouldn't mind, I would love to jump into the discussion, though, about bagging on the Patriots. That is one of my favorite topics.
Please.
So, as I'm sure everybody can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I can tell that I'm on a little bit of a delay. I'm going to try to get that figured out. But while I do that, I would love it if you guys would keep going for maybe a minute or two so I can jump in the discussion where you guys are at. Maybe I can fix my Wi-Fi problems for a second. It'll only take me a minute.
All right, sounds good, Zach. Okay. So basically, when it comes down to this game, I mean, it really poses questions going into this next part of the Patriots segment, going into Buffalo.
Yeah.
This was a team that the Patriots did go into back in week. Well, what week was that again? When they were in Buffalo?
Pull up,
I'm here.
I was trying to put on do not disturb as my phone kept. But that was week 13. Week for my birthday.
Yeah,
We
week
had the
13.
the next week, and then went to Indy and lost, and then play Buffalo and lost again. But similar conditions coming up for this game. Probably not as windy, but definitely going to be as cold. Forecasted could be as low as 2 degrees. It could feel like -4 degrees. And if that's the case, if those rumors are true in Buffalo this weekend, I'm going to be seeing a very similar game plan to what we saw in Week 13
Mm-hmm.
in Buffalo. The elements there are crazy, especially at night. And it's very fortunate to be able to play the Bills in prime time. I'm glad. I knew they were going to give this game the prime time game on Saturday night. It's going to be great for ratings. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think the Pats, if they want to win this game, they can't do the same thing they did in Week 13. Throw the ball 3 times for 19 yards.
Yeah.
Run it pretty much every play. I mean, they can run it effectively and well. We've seen it week in, week out. We saw it that week too.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots, really good rushing offense this season. But, ultimately against a high octane attack in the Buffalo Bills, in Josh Allen, against Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, etc. This the Patriots can't be predictable in this game. And I think that comes with moving the ball downfield well through the air. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see a lot of deep passes, or really any at all. I think we're going to see a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short stuff coming from Mac Jones. But I think the Pats, if they want to win this game in Buffalo, they got to chew up a lot of clock on these drives. They got to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And I think the under is going to slap like an MF.
Yep.
Zach Drapo is back.
100%. I so agree with that. I'm taking the under on this game all day. I love what the Patriots have with their defense, but at the same time, the Patriots offense I don't believe in, right? And I know Mac Jones is way better than we thought he was going to be as a rookie. I will give him that. Super impressive. He's everything we thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be. I really think. But the defense of the Patriots, as talented and as deep as it is, has not been showing up the last couple weeks. Especially when you have a team like the Bills who have such a diverse plethora of options. You can hit Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox comes alive when he needs. Devin Singletary's had a great end to the year. And I think the Patriots are going to have trouble with that. And I also, you guys might not like this. I don't know how much you've been bashing the Patriots, but I personally see this game as maybe a blowout. I think the Bills might put up some points on the Patriots. I don't know.
It's tough. That's a tough one for me.
But I could definitely see it being 2 possessions. I could see it being maybe a 10-point Bills victory. Honestly, I'm a Pats fan, but going into Buffalo this weekend, I'll save those for. Let me hear what Chet has to say first.
Yeah, I mean, kind of building off what Zach was saying with, how these Bills guys, they've got so many options offensively. Defense, they're the top defense in the league in terms of yards allowed. And, I mean, what we saw them put up in Foxborough was scary because that's something as a Pats fan that's unsettling for a team that's been so dominant for so long. But, hey, it's a new era. It's a new time, a changing of the guard type thing, if you may. But going into this one, I feel like Belichick might have a game plan coming in, like a really good one. This is the 3rd time we're seeing them this season. And I don't think we're going to see them get blown out, but I could see a 2-possession loss. But for me, I'm going to probably take the Bills in this one because I just think Josh Allen is able to he's been able to put it together since they lost to the Buccaneers. They've won all those games since. And then the run game, as you said, Zach, has really developed. Devin Singletary's getting up there, and Josh Allen's still using his legs to get around the field.
Josh Allen's been really taking charge of the running game as of the last couple weeks. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was last week, but the week before. Did they play? They played the Patriots 3 weeks ago?
Maybe
4?
16, yeah.
Right, so I think he had a pretty good game that game, but the week after, I think he had
6
or 7
Atlanta
yards on the ground, right?
Yeah, against Atlanta, he had a lot of rushing yards in the snow. He also threw 3 picks and no touchdowns.
And that's the give and take you have with Josh Allen. He's one of those. He's a risk taker, which is good, but obviously it can be bad when you have those games where you throw 3 picks. But with the give and take, especially with the kind of offense that they have, and remember the Bills, especially their head coach Sean McDermott, they should be known as a defensive team. And their defense, while it's been good, especially against the run, their offense is just blown up into
Yeah.
this unpredictable team that they could either, hold you to like 15 points and only score 17 themselves, or they could just put up 40 points a game. You really don't know. And going against the Patriots, I can appreciate the fact that it's going to be a cold night game, and Belichick is absolutely going to get that team fired up. You got the captains like Dante Hightower that are going to be just, they have every bit of motivation. They have every reason to be on point for this game. But I really do think that the Bills just have that one extra step that's really going to take them over the edge. No discredit to the Patriots. I really think that the Patriots in the next year, maybe in 2 years, while Mac Jones is still under contract, I think that they're going to have a complete team. I just don't know if it's this year.
I don't know if it's this year either. And one of the fun fact, the last rookie quarterback to win a playoff game, you know who it was?
Was it in the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, 10 years. Almost just about 10
years. I'm going to say, was it Andrew Luck?
No, it wasn't. Same year, though.
RG3?
Russell Wilson. Last year against fellow rookie RG3. It's been a decade since we've seen it. And I'm not saying Mac Jones can't do it. I'm not saying Bill Belichick won't be able to pull this off. He definitely can. But against Buffalo Bills, against a team that's flying high, won their last 4 games, and kind of embarrassed the Pats 2 weeks ago in Gillette. I just think they're a better football team right now. And, Will Reyes, my boy, best friend, big Niners fan, also playing this weekend, 6th seed team. Kind of me some names, playing against my own team, but it's just my job here is to be objective. And I've picked the Pats literally every single week on the show.
Yeah, we basically have. That's all we've done. They should be 16-0 by now.
Yeah, the last time I didn't pick them was probably against Dallas, and they lost. And they won that 7-game win streak, and I had them every week. But
have you guys talked much about the other playoff matchups, or are you really
got to get into that soon?
We're going to segue into that in just a moment. But I think a good question to ask you about the Patriots is, so they finished the season last year at 7-9. This year they're 3 wins better than they were last season. Would you consider this, after their 7-game win streak and losing 4 out of the last 5 and potentially losing in Buffalo, would you consider this a successful season?
For sure. I think that, obviously with the extra game that you got this season, if the haters will say what they want, this is a 9-7 team, even though they got the 10 wins. I think with all the pressure that was put onto the post-Brady era, and does Belichick have it without him? Having a rookie quarterback, wanting to start the year with Cam Newton, and then saying, no, this is our guy. I think that a lot of people, and also including myself, thought that this was a 500 team at best. I thought that the defense was going to come back because of all of their injuries and COVID, whatever you want to say, people that
the opting out
off, like Dante Hightower, for example. And then you take the fact that Stephon Gilmore was traded early in the season, which was a huge move that they made. Mm-hmm. And it brought about the emergence of J.C. Jackson. I think that the Patriots have surpassed at least non-New England homers' expectations. I think everybody in New England expected this to be a playoff team, but people outside of New England didn't really. Mm-hmm. And I think that they are easily a top 5 team. I know that they are the 5 seed, right? They're the top wild card seed.
Raiders,
they're 5. Yeah, they're
Raiders
the 6th seed.
So they're the 6th seed, but I could make a case for yeah, that's what I'll say. They're a plain top 5 seed, and they have one of the best all-around teams from a defensive standpoint and from an offensive standpoint in the league. Are they able to compete with the Titans and the Chiefs as far as they can blow people out? No. But when you factor in the great coaching, I think that this team shouldn't have won more than 7 games, especially with a rookie quarterback. And they could have won 12 games this year. If a thing or two had gone the other way.
And I completely agree. I think any season where you make the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, and especially with the shoes that he had to fill, being the next franchise quarterback of the New England Patriots. I think Mac Jones, Patriots did a phenomenal job this season. Season's not over yet. Even if they lose, I think it's a very successful season, winning double-digit games with a rookie quarterback. Like I said, It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented to do that nowadays, especially with all these teams rebuilding. And a lot of these new quarterbacks are put in really bad situations. Unfortunately for Mac Jones, good situation, good defense, great coaching, probably the best in the league still. And like Zach said, this team could be 12-5, 13-4. If they just beat Dallas or Tampa Bay kicks that field goal, or even week 1 against Miami. This could be a team that I think that their record is not as good as they have been all season. That 7-game win streak this year was remarkable. Another huge winning streak in the Bill Belichick era for the Patriots. And I'm pretty happy this year. This is probably the most fun team I've watched in so long because we never knew what was going to happen with this team. Growing up in New England as a big Pats fan, you're expected to win every week, and with Tom Brady at the helm. So with Mac Jones, it was very refreshing. Gives glimpses of Tom Brady, and off season for him. 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, completing 68% of his passes, and still a top 2 candidate for Rookie of the Year. Jamar Chase really kind of got that the last few weeks, unfortunately, but that would have been the first Rookie of the Year in the Bill Belichick era on offense, and still deserving. I mean, I think this is a great team. I think next year the Pats will be even better. I think they're going to open up in a lot of books as the favorite to win the AFC East. This game will do a lot for that too. If they win this game, really continues the tide in the AFC East the next few years.
Yeah, I'll get through my point real quick, just so Zach, so we can get into some playoff talk with Zach, because I know he definitely wants to get into that. But for me, I'm going with a 60-40 on successful and not successful. Definitely successful because you're talking about a team that we were like, hey, this is probably going to be in a rebuild because, Cam Newton clearly wasn't working out. Most of the team offensively just looked flat throughout the time he was there. They had to change the playbook. You get a rookie and then a lot of signings, which was huge. So that truly showed that it boosts their offensive production going into this year. But at the same time, you spent all that money to buy yourself 3 wins, 3 extra wins.
3 extra wins, but we got a significantly better roster this year and the next 3 or 4 to 4
I
years.
agree. It's just
any of the last 3 years.
You go on that 7-game win streak. You look unstoppable coming into the bye week. You're the number 1 seed in the conference. You should be riding high at that point. It's hard for me to go ahead and say that because they go on a bye week and then they have 2 tough games down the road. But you win against Jacksonville, and then you lose to Miami, which is a team you definitely should have their number. And I mean, even in that Colts game, if they came out competitive in the first half, and same with the Bills, and same with the Dolphins, they just aren't doing that anymore. They were doing that all in the beginning, and now for some reason, it's like they're lost in translation. And if this isn't fixed going into this Bills game, I mean, sure, people will look back on it and say, hey, it was a solid season, but it's disappointing because you didn't get the win.
Yeah, I mean, we can say that because we haven't seen the game yet. That's gonna be that.
Yeah.
The Patriots lose against the Bills. Obviously, it's gonna be a disappointing season, but in the grand scheme of things, from what we've seen the last 2 years from the Patriots, because keep in mind that 2019 team that went 12-4, that was not a good team, really.
Yeah.
Great defense, but offense was terrible. And even last year, another similar story. Good defense, but terrible offense. This year, getting the pieces clicking together, I think for the next 5-10 years is huge. Because now you have, your franchise running back in Damian Harris, who's had a 1,000-yard season, doubles with touchdowns. Mac Jones, a franchise quarterback. Jacoby Myers coming into his own, and all these talented players on both sides of the ball. Like Zach said, J.C. Jackson, really becoming one of the most elite cornerbacks in the league, recording, I think it's like his 3rd straight year with at least 6 interceptions, which is crazy. Definitely one of the biggest ball hawks in the NFL. So
all the hype that Trayvon Diggs has gotten, J.C. Jackson deserves. Because
exactly.
He gets almost the amount of picks, but he doesn't allow the 1,000 yards that Trayvon Diggs gets that only some media have been talking about. Trayvon Diggs is
and the passer rating against J.C. Jackson is insane too. It's like less than 50.
Right. And one more point about the Bills-Patriots game. I think that so you guys might have to correct me on this, but I do believe in one of the playoff scenarios, if the Raiders-Chargers game hadn't gone the way it was, I believe if the Chargers had won, the Patriots are going to go to Cincinnati. Is that right?
Yeah.
I just
The
remember
Chargers would have ended up in KC.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that
But they would have
that
ended
would've
up in
been better.
Buffalo.
I just believe that Buffalo has a great defense built for the Patriots' offensive game plan because while Mac Jones can throw 40 yards down the field, we've seen it a couple times. He has a good deep ball, not a great, but a good deep ball. Well, Buffalo has these slot corners like a Tre'Davious White. They have pass coverage linebackers like Matt Milano, and they have really good edge rushers that are going to make Mac Jones feel the pressure. And while Mac Jones has been tough, you can see in his numbers in the first, maybe not in the last half of the season, but especially in the first half of the season, when he was getting pressured, he would look to get the ball out quick.
Yeah.
Which is a good scheme to have if you're Tom Brady and you have the background and you have the chemistry with these receivers that he had. Mac Jones is going to look for those 5 to 10 yard slants, in routes, hitch routes, and stuff like that. And I think that the front seven and the slot corners that Buffalo has, I think it's going to be a really tough matchup. And we saw that in their second game that they played this season. I think that Buffalo is a good pass defense, but it's built for a team like the Patriots who rely on those 5 to 10 yard routes, especially.
Yeah, and like a big issue that I've been noticing lately with Mac Jones' play going later into the season has been he kind of doesn't really look through his reads. He kind of looks at the first read he sees and he's throwing it. And I'm like, dude, you got to let the play develop more. Like, I don't care if that guy's open. He's literally behind the line of scrimmage. Wait and see if Myers gets open over the top or if you got Henry going across the middle. It's like there's got to be something else other than just dumping it off to Brandon Bolden every time.
Brandon Bolden. Jeez. They love giving him touches. He doesn't make our team better at all.
No.
Except for last week. He came through big on the ground and through the air with a touchdown. But other than that.
Final score predictions. Let's hear them.
All right, I'm going to say Pat's cover. It's going to be 17-13. No, 16-13.
We got do we have stats on the over under? You know what it is?
Right.
Total.
I've got a -4 in favor of the Bills. And the over-under is 44.
40, so
Ooh,
I'm totally
44?
taking that.
That's too many points. I'm putting 3 units on that right now.
I'm gonna say it's like 26-14 Bills. I think the Bills are gonna be able to run the clock out, get some field goals, and I don't think the Patriots are gonna do too much. So basically 2-possession game, almost 2 touchdowns. That's what I think.
I'm gonna go 26-24 Bills. That's
Okay.
that's my call on that one.
Over.
Yeah, just going a little bit.
Alrighty, you love the over.
Oh yeah, baby. All right, so we're gonna highlight some of the premier games that are gonna happen here in Wild Card Weekend, and I think with the one we have to talk about right now is in the NFC, and that's going between the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I had trouble writing about these two teams today, Zach, because honestly, both teams are very similar when it comes to high offensive power, solid run game, and a pretty good front seven on that defense.
And as far as the NFC goes, these two might be the two hottest teams right now in the last 4 weeks. We've seen Dallas put up 50 points 2 of their last 3 games. Granted, it's not against the best defenses, and they were both divisional games, which the Cowboys in their division is like how the Patriots were in their division for the last 20 years. It's the Cowboys' division for the next 5-10 years, as long as they keep Prescott. I totally agree with you, though. I think this is an offensive game. I'm taking the over, unless it's 55 or something crazy.
51.5.
51.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That's
still
generous.
I mean, I like this is probably the most evenly matched game of the postseason of Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah.
And last week, San Francisco 49ers, probably other than the Raiders, no, not even the Raiders. This was definitely the most impressive win out of any team last week. Coming back from 17-0 and handing Sean McVay's first ever loss in a game in which the Rams led at halftime in order to clinch a playoff berth. I mean, I was watching this with Will, like I said, my Niners guy. 88-yard drive with a minute left and no timeouts. Garoppolo orchestrating that. Deebo Samuel I think Cowboys are going to have a hard time stopping him. I think they're going to have to contain him and Kittle. It's going to be really tough for this Cowboys defense, which we've seen be pretty susceptible to high octane offense because they haven't really played any good offense this year other than Tampa, Kansas City, and you can say Vegas too in New England. All those teams kind of crapped on their defense. So I think defense is a little bit overrated. They had a lot of big fantasy games, big defensive games from just playing bad divisional teams. I think the Niners are going to give them their first real tough in a long time this season. I'm going to pick San Francisco on the road. I think they're going to win this game by 3. It's going to be a nail biter, 34-31.
Yeah, the spread right now is -3 in favor of Dallas. But for me, I mean, I like the Niners too much. They look like the most dangerous team in the league right now. Jimmy Garoppolo won the game last week with an injured finger. And, I mean, despite throwing 2 interceptions in that game, you still had Debo, who threw a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. Kyle Shanahan proved that with that handicap.
He threw a touchdown. I totally forgot about that. That was crazy.
Yeah, with that handicap, this team has proven that they can beat you in many different ways. And, I mean, sure, they played Matt Stafford, but, like, some of the teams they played were pretty good. And we're seeing in the postseason.
I thought it was so interesting that the Rams in the last stretch of that game against the 49ers, Stafford threw, I want to say, 4 balls to Odell Beckham and no balls to Cooper Kupp at the end of that game to try to come back. I thought that was really interesting. Now, granted, I don't know if the 49ers were doubling Cooper Kupp. I would assume so because he's the best receiver by far this year.
Yeah.
But it made me a little bit... Let me say this. I'm kind of stuttering here. I had picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. I thought their offensive firepower was too great. I thought that offense was going to resemble the 2008 Patriots as far as a passing attack. And then Cooper Kupp excelled the predictions that I originally had. And so when Odell Beckham joined, I didn't think he was going to make too much of a splash. But to see them throw the ball to him and him not to catch 3 of the 4 targets they sent, it makes me think that the Rams might have a little bit of a crisis on their hand. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but the Rams in my book
I've always said the Rams were a little fraud. And I think last week kind of showed up. Being up 17-0, they're definitely a team that can really take their foot off the gas pedal in the second half, man. I saw it last week. Stafford got sacked a lot, especially on 3rd down last week. And this is the 6th straight game the Niners have beaten the Rams. But honestly, I think if I had to pick one of those teams to go into Green Bay or to Tampa Bay and try to beat either of those teams, I'm probably taking the San Francisco 49ers. At least with a better defensive, in my opinion, Shanahan and McVay go neck and neck, but arguably better coaching with Kyle Shanahan because he can just devise these game plans of just 10, 12-minute drives that just suck the soul out of defense. And I think that they probably pose the best threat to Green Bay in this NFC playoff picture.
Yeah, and keeping it grounded here with the Dallas. Yeah, since they're playing Dallas this week, I think the Niners' game plan going into this is it's tough because honestly, if you keep it with Dak and shut down that run game, he's just proven to me a lot, even from last season to this season, considering that season-ending injury didn't really do much. He's still the same quarterback that we know and love. If he can drop dimes, these Cowboys are probably going to move on to the next round. But they need to disguise some plays, make some mistakes, because honestly, even though Ezekiel Elliott, excuse me, this echo's killing me right now, but he's only averaging about 4 yards a carry, but like most of the runs I've seen him do are like for maybe a yard or 2 half the time. I feel like Zeke isn't, and we've seen his numbers trickle down since he's entered the league. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the Niners' first step to beating the Cowboys in this game is to shut down Zeke. They need to get to him quickly. And I know Tony Pollard's going to get in and get some touches too, but I think the game plan is to force Dak to throw that ball because, I mean, I know he's going to make some plays. I know he's going to gain a ton of yards, and that's perfect, Zach. That fixed everything.
I'm so sorry about that. I just realized what you were saying.
Yeah, but it's just the Niners, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to disguise some plays here. And same with the Cowboys, because, I mean, this is honestly, if the Cowboys wanted to pick a perfect season to really make a push for the Super Bowl, this is the year. This is the team that is built to make a push for that Super Bowl. The fact of the matter for me is, I mean, come on, that defense looks way better than I've ever seen it in years.
It's
and
way
I mean,
better, but it's so reliant on like Trayvon Diggs having an outstanding game, which isn't going to happen every week.
And Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons is the real deal. I don't like the Cowboys. I'm going to be completely honest, but Micah Parsons is the absolute real deal. I believe that he should be Defensive Player of the Year, even though he is a rookie. He's had just an amazing year all around the ball. He is a perfect prototype outside linebacker, like we haven't seen in years. Since maybe like what Devin White should have been for the Bucs and is now becoming. I think that's what Micah Parsons is. But you're not going to have every single week. You're not going to have Micah Parsons getting a sack and interception. You're not going to have Trayvon Diggs getting 2 picks. You're not going to have Prescott throwing 400 yards and a decent running game. It's not going to happen every week. And so one of these games, when you play Tampa Bay or you play Green Bay, you're going to get into a shootout and you're going to come up short. And I think the Cowboys have the ability to go to the NFC Championship and play one of those big teams. But one of these weeks, they're going to have an off game, and they're not going to be able to recover from it because they don't have the safety net of having more depth and reliable players all around the team. They just rely on 5 major superstars.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's going to come down to, like we said, which team's going to deliver the first mistake, I feel, in this one. I feel like that's going to be the deciding factor. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to make that mistake, or is it going to be Dak? But for me, I mean, that Cowboys front seven's pretty solid, and Micah Parsons, as you said, is a hybrid linebacker who's proven he can get pressure on the quarterback. I think we're going to see Jimmy G throw a pick or 2 in this one, and that's really what's going to set the Niners back a bit and have to battle their way back into it. Dallas could really take advantage. For me, this game's really a 50-50 split. I like the Niners in this, and I'm going to take the Niners in this game, but it's reluctantly in a way because I think Dallas still brings a lot to the table that a lot of people are doubting.
Yeah, they definitely do. So it'll be a close game. I think the fans are going to get their money's worth watching this one, but I think it's going to come down to, who gets – I think honestly it's going to come down to who gets the ball last.
Yeah.
What do you guys got for scores?
I said 34-3, but I want to go a little bit lower. I'm going to say 30-27, San Francisco.
I'm going to go 31-27, San Francisco.
I just takes my prediction as a point. Like
I'm going to say 35-30 Dallas.
Oh,
right.
Okay. I like that. I like that pick. All right, and now we're going to switch over to the AFC real quick and talk about a game that not many people are really thinking about too much. It's not the Steelers-Chiefs game. It's not the Bills-Pats game. I want to talk about these Raiders going into Cincinnati and taking on Joe Burrow and the Bengals because, honestly, I like what I see from Las Vegas this year. They've shown a lot of punch. They've shown even last week that their pass rush is still pretty good with Max Crosby at the helm, and that Bengals O-line, like, oh my God, like it's pretty bad. Joe Burrow's gotten sacked a lot, and he basically the reason why he didn't play last week is he got hurt in that Kansas City game. We saw him limp off the field at the end just before they won. For me, this game could go either way too. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's got a great offense in front of him. That defense is a little iffy at times, but they've shown up when they need the most. And then same with Vegas. I feel like this could be one of the highest scoring games this week, in my opinion.
I honestly think it's going to be a little bit surprising, a little lower scoring game. Maybe not the highest scoring game of the week, or not even low scoring for all that matters, but I think it'll be close. I think Raiders, they're +5 right now. I think they're going to cover that on the road in Cincinnati. It's a franchise that has been totally snake bitten, like I said earlier in the show. Hasn't won a playoff game in 31 years. Since before the first text message was sent. NFL memes post that every year. It's hilarious. So Cincinnati at home, I think it's definitely gonna be a really close game. Or it possibly has low potential in favor of Cincinnati, but I think the Raiders are going to keep it. I think they're just playing too well to get blown out right now by the Bengals. If it was the Chiefs, I would probably look at it as a blowout, but Bengals, this is still a very young team. This is Zach Taylor in his first playoff game as a coach. Same with the Raiders head coach, Rich Bisaccia. But Derek Carr, he's waited 8 years for this. I think he's going to give it all he's got. I think Josh Jacobs, who's been playing really well lately, is going to have a good game. Sure, this Bengals team, they're fifth best run defense in the league, but the Raiders going to win this game, similar to like what the other teams have to do, like the Bills and the 49ers or the Pats. They got to have a good run game. And I think they're going to probably go out, have a good drive, start the game, and probably just lose still. I think the Bengals are still going to win this game at home. And they're going to punch their way to the divisional round for the first time in 3 decades.
I think you're totally right, Duffy.
Well, thank you.
I find I would say that Joe Burrow is the most underrated young quarterback in the league. I know we give him a lot of hype, and he's had a great season with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but I don't think people give him the hype that he should have. I put him on the level, maybe even above the level of Justin Herbert, as much as I love Herbert. But I also think that Derek Carr is one of the most underrated veteran quarterbacks in the league. I think this is really a great matchup of 2 quarterbacks that have something to prove. And like you said, they're both really fighting for their first big playoff moment. Obviously, the Bengals have a little bit more to prove because they haven't been there in a while. Mm-hmm. But I think that the firepower that the Bengals have, their trio of wide receivers that are borderline elite. I would say Jamar Chase is elite. I would say T. Higgins is knocking on the door. And Tyler Boyd is maybe the best third option in the entire NFL. Tyler Boyd as a number 3 receiver is ridiculous.
And going into this season, I was kind of surprised that Tyler Boyd kind of really been taking the back seat because he was Joe Burrow's top target last year. Mm-hmm. So to kind of see like that changing in the guard and kind of see, well, obviously Jamar Chase, old teammate, makes sense why they have that chemistry there. I like Cincinnati in this game. It's just, I put this in my article today. I just have a feeling about these Raiders for some reason. Mm-hmm. I think this team's on a mission this year. Like I said before, Derek Carr, the most passing yards he's ever thrown in a single season, nearly broke 5,000 yards. That's crazy. Hunter Renfrow, who would have thought this guy would become a number 1 option for a quarterback to throw to? You're going to probably have Darren Waller back this week, which will really help that pass game. And then Josh Jacobs looked unbelievable last week against the Chargers and the Bengals.
Especially in overtime.
Exactly. I think this team's got a lot to bring to the table, and I think they've got a lot to bring to the postseason. And if I had to pick a score prediction for this game, it's going to be a close one. I'm still taking the Raiders, but I'm probably going to say a final score of 28-25.
Let's get our $10 in, Chet. Come on.
You want $10 on this game?
Now, the Raiders have had the most games decided within the last minute of this season. I'm going to go ahead and say Raiders 31-30.
Let's go. Wow. Get Joe Burrow out of here. No, I love Joe Burrow.
Clutch. They're really clutch. Not elite as this team is, they show up in the fourth quarter, and that is a tribute to Derek Carr, I really believe.
Yeah. 31 years old, finally in the postseason for the first time ever. And I don't know. I just have a feeling that with all of this controversy that's been going on for the team this year, they like I said, they put it behind them, and they're here. You punched your ticket. Now prove your worth.
So, isn't this a team of destiny?
I don't think they're going the whole way. I think they'll at least win one.
I think the fact of the matter is, if Vegas wins this game, they're getting blown out the next week anyways.
Probably.
By Tennessee or by Kansas City, probably.
Or it could be like the Cleveland Browns only almost won that game because Patrick Mahomes got hurt in that game last year in the divisional round.
I always forget that happened, but
yeah, because it kind of gives me a similar feeling to that Cleveland Browns team we saw last year. They just turned it on at the end of the season, and they really put up a fight, blew out the Steelers. We could potentially see that in this one. You never know.
I just think this.
I don't think it will happen.
Like this team is just really different than recent years. I think they're just way better than the Raiders, and
yeah.
I mean, the Raiders have been really hot. They've won their last 4 games to get in the postseason, to get in the dance. They were 6-7 a month ago. But the Bengals, I mean, this is a team that they've had some unprecedented offensive outputs this season. Absolutely blowing out the Ravens a couple weeks ago. Did it to them twice. They actually beat this Raiders team 32-13 earlier in the season, blew them out, made them look silly.
Yeah.
They've done this to a lot of teams, and I think with Cincinnati being at home, Joe Burrow having a lot to prove, he's definitely the best quarterback they've had in a very long time. He's better than Andy Dalton ever was already in his first 2 seasons. And
I would say he's even better than Carson Palmer.
Better than Carson Palmer, really, probably. Carson Palmer didn't even win shit in Cincinnati.
Carson Palmer had A.J. Green, though, prime years. You got to think.
Andy Dalton, you mean?
Andy Dalton. I'm sorry. Andy Dalton.
But Carson Palmer also had Ocho Cinco, dude, 5 years.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald.
And
Larry Fitzgerald when he was in Arizona.
Yeah, he wasn't in his prime. He was getting old, but he was still a beast, Fitzgerald. But, I think Joe Burrow wins this game. This guy's a winner. And I think it's close. I don't think it's as high scoring as you guys think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 23-20. And I think it's going to come down to a game-winning field goal. But I'll tell you this. If it does, and it has, and I think if the Raiders get the ball last in this game in that situation, then they're probably going to win the game because Daniel Carlson's a beast.
Yep.
But I think the Bengals are going to get business done at home and sneak out here with a victory, 23-20 at home. And
all right,
to the divisional playoffs.
Yeah. I know it's just about to go on 7 o'clock, and I know, Zach, you're probably going to have to depart soon because you got your show coming up.
If you guys want to do one more game, I would love to do one more.
This game in the background.
I would love to talk about the Chiefs-Steelers game. I don't know if you guys want.
We can go for it. I don't care.
All right, so
Chiefs minus 12. What do you think?
Chiefs minus 12. I am taking the Steelers plus 12.
Wow.
Definitely taking the Steelers plus 12. So here's the thing, right? The Steelers defense is banged up. Stephon Tuitt's out. I'm pretty sure Joe Hayden is still out as well. But the Steelers have some kind of juju magic that has been, no pun intended to Juju Smith-Schuster, but they have something going around in their locker room right now that is making them play way better than they should. Now, I love Deontay Johnson as a number 1 option. I thought that he was severely underrated, and I picked him up in fantasy because of that. He had a great year.
Filthy.
But this Chiefs team has been really good over the last couple weeks, but they've lacked the 40-point games that we've seen in the last couple years. Mahomes, while he threw a lot of picks in the beginning of the season, no one's talked about that. He's thrown, I believe, 3 picks in the last 2 or 3 weeks as well. So he's not the elite. He is the elite quarterback, but he's not the Mahomes we have seen over
not
the
last Mahomes we
years.
had the last 2-3 seasons. You know,
I think that the drama is going to be so high. It's Sunday Night Football, the first week of the playoffs. I think that the Steelers are going to come up just short. I think this game is like 28-27. Now, mind you, Andy Reid has gotten a lot of credit, as he should, over the last couple of years for being one of the best teams. But he's had Pat Mahomes. So Andy Reid he's been given the credit maybe unjustly. Mike Tomlin is maybe my favorite coach in the league.
Yep.
His defense, first of all, I don't think he's ever had a losing season.
Nope.
Right? Big Ben's never had a losing season. Tomlin hasn't either. His defense has been top 20 ranked like 16 of his 17 seasons in the NFL. And he has been in playoff games. He knows how to get his team ready. Big Ben didn't even think he was going to play a game this weekend if that game had been a tie between the Raiders and Chargers, which I was betting on. I think the Steelers are going to show out. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think they might even have a lead in the fourth quarter, but the Chiefs just barely come back and win it right at the end.
Yeah, I think it will be close. I think it has to blow up potential like any Chiefs game does, but they have been really bad doing that this year, like Zach said. Not as many, high-scoring games. And one of those games was against the same Steelers team 3 weeks ago in Arrowhead. But I think Big Ben's last game, Sunday Night Football, I just don't see any way. I don't know where Chet went.
We lose Chet.
It's like I just don't see any way in which this game isn't close for ratings, or for Vegas.
Right.
Everyone's going to be
NFL's so fixed anyway. We know
everyone's going to be hammering Chiefs minus 12 because of what happened.
Honest to God, I swear sometimes, sorry, I had to dip out because my connection was all screwed up for a second. But sometimes I kind of sit here, and it's definitely come to my head a few times this year. I'm like, are they really writing these games? Because it's
Definitely
getting
with the spreads,
so
dude.
entertaining right now.
They totally wrote the he totally wrote the Colts-Jaguars game. I just got to get that in before we leave here.
Oh, God.
That game was so scripted, it's not even funny. My Colts got badgered. They're hyping up Trevor Lawrence for next season so that they don't think he's the complete fraud that he was shown in the beginning of the year.
You can't tell me, though, that dime he dropped where he scrambled back for like 10 yards, throws it off his back foot, and Marvin Jones is just waiting for it.
I don't got to tell you nothing, man. The Jaguars are crap. That game so fixed. The refs had it in for. Nah, I'm just playing. Honestly, it was still a joke, and I just had to say that before I left to you guys.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on this Pittsburgh game is, I mean, I don't think they're going to get blown out, but I think it's going to be a too little, too late scenario where the Chiefs get up on them early. Pittsburgh's going to figure it out eventually. I mean, Najee Harris has proven he's the main weapon on that offense besides Deontay Johnson, so they're going to have to get the ball to both of those guys and really spread it out because, I mean, even in that game against the Ravens, Ben threw some pretty dog shit passes that resulted in them having to settle, get going for it on 4th down and 3rd down and just barely converting each time. This team's going to have to stay competitive and get those first downs more efficiently rather than adding up plays on their drive because if they can't strike, the Chiefs are going to walk all over them in this one.
I think that's kind of been the story of the Steelers season. Too little, too late. Seen too many times where they just explode in the 4th quarter, against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football in LA, against the Vikings too. That game was probably scripted, that Vikings-Steelers game on Thursday Night Football. They were down 29-0 and came back.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those things, and I think this game could be like that where Steelers turn up in the 4th quarter because we've seen that with a lot of Chiefs defense the last few years, just letting up 4th quarter points. Yeah. But, yeah, I agree with you, Chad. I think that's a very likely scenario. I think the Steelers, they do cover this 12-point cushion. I was just telling Zach before he cut me off and came back in. There's no way this is Big Ben's last game in prime time, and it won't be close. That's dude, there's no way. There's literally none. I don't think they would put him in prime time if they knew he was going to get blown out in his career. Yeah. I think this game is definitely going to be a little Vegas-y, little fixed, and questionable calls, and Steelers will cover, but they will lose. They will lose 31-21.
38-28.
I think it's going to be like 31-27.
He's just adding touchdowns to my freaking predictions now.
I just said 30-28. What do you want me to say? That's a 10-point difference.
10-point cushion.
All right, guys. Finishing up with your show. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always a good time. Everybody check out Chris's new article on fansonlysports.com. It's a good read for Wildcard Weekend.
Man.
Once again, that's fansonlysports.com. Zach Drapo, everyone. Thank you for coming on the show, man. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you,
Take
Zach.
it easy, guys.
See you, brother.